What's up guys, back with another Fallout Countdown video, and about a week or two ago, I made a video on the top 10 Fallout New Vegas guns and weapons that I wish were in Fallout 4. And since you guys seemed to really like that video, I figured we could make one that goes over armors that were in New Vegas that I wish were in Fallout 4. Now, like last time, I'm mostly going to be talking about armors that were either fun or looked cool from New Vegas, and talk about which ones I would have liked to have seen in Fallout 4 in an official capacity. With this said, if you are aware of certain Fallout 4 mods that add these armors back into the game, feel free to discuss them in the comments section below. However, without further ado, these are the top 10 Fallout New Vegas armors I wish were in Fallout 4, starting now. Number 10. Recon armor. Now, the Recon armor made its first appearance in Fallout 3, but for whatever reason, it never made its way into Fallout 4. And what I liked about this armor was that it made standard Brotherhood foot soldiers, or knights, stand out from the other factions in New Vegas. And there was a good chance that if you saw someone wearing this, then it was probably a Brotherhood soldier. In Fallout 4, the Brotherhood basically gets recolored combat armor pieces, which isn't as cool or as unique in my personal opinion. I suspect Recon armor didn't make it into Fallout 4 because it seems like it would be difficult to make modular armor pieces for it. And it seems like Recon armor would work best as a full suit of armor rather than as individual modular parts. And while I suppose you could make a full suit and call it Recon armor, I think it would end up making it inferior in the long run to modular armor pieces. Still, it would have been nice to see the Brotherhood have unique looking armor in Fallout 4, and hopefully we'll see this armor return at some point in the future. Number 9. The Courier Duster. While Maxson's battle coat from Fallout 4 looks pretty cool, we don't really get many, if any, genuine dusters in Fallout 4. Now, it's pretty obvious why the Courier Duster wasn't included in Fallout 4, but even if it's not necessarily the Courier Duster itself, it would have been nice to see custom duster apparel for Fallout 4. And I think the Courier Duster, along with Ulysses Duster, are worth emulating in future Fallout games, particularly when it comes to the symbol on the back of the armor and how it can change depending on the player's reputation with certain factions. It also would have been cool if you beat Fallout 4 and you were awarded with an outfit that's relevant to each faction. As for dusters themselves, there's a pretty good chance they'll return in the next game, depending on where it's located. Number 8. Legion Centurion armor. So, just like a lot of the other faction armors on this list, it's pretty easy to understand why this didn't make it into Fallout 4. Still, what I like about this particular armor is the cobbled together pieces that comprise it. You've got what appears to be T-45 armor on one arm, you've got Ranger Patrol armor on the cod piece, you've got combat armor for the shin guards, and the chest piece appears to be some super mutant armor. And while you can mix and match armor pieces in Fallout 4, and some of the Raider armor pieces look semi-cobbled together, the Centurion armor in particular is pretty impressive because this armor features a lot of recognizable pieces from existing armors that just seem to fit together so well. And while this armor does use a lot of pre-existing assets, I like how it all kind of like melds together, and I think it looks pretty cool. And ultimately, guys, I just like how this armor looks, and I hope we see future armors that are more inspired by this one's design. Number 7. The NCR Ranger Patrol armor. Not to be confused with the iconic riot gear or NCR Ranger combat armor, the NCR Ranger Patrol armor is typically worn with a ranger hat instead of a helmet and makes the player look more like a park ranger rather than some form of paramilitary or military police. And I'd imagine this would be something that a park ranger might wear if they had to preserve a national park that has deathclaws, mirelurks, or whatever other large creatures or abominations that would be lurking about. Aside from the NCR not appearing in the game, I suspect a major reason the patrol armor doesn't appear in Fallout 4 is because there aren't really any forested areas where wearing this armor would make sense. And perhaps Bethesda had the opportunity to do something like this with Far Harbor, but sadly they didn't. Even still, it would be cool if this armor got redesigned and was featured in future games, and perhaps there could be a faction that consists of Rangers that wear an altered version of the NCR original. Number 6. The NCR Salvaged Power Armor. Now, something that would have been really cool to see in Fallout 4 was some kind of variant of the salvaged power armor, and I always thought it was kind of neat that the NCR managed to get their hands on some Brotherhood armor, and they simply removed all of the mechanical components inside to make the armor wearable without power armor training. Though I suppose the reason we didn't really see salvaged power armor was because Bethesda pretty much overhauled power armor for Fallout 4. Even still, it seems like certain aspects of the salvaged power armor would work. For example, it seems like you could wear a power armor helmet whether you had the proper training or not, and given the fact that most power armor pieces altogether weigh roughly 90 to 110 pounds, it seems like wearing salvaged power armor pieces and then fashioning them into a crude armor design could work and would be practical. If you ask me, salvaged power armor is a pretty cool concept, and it would be nice to see the armor being worn by various raiders. Number 5. The Stealth Suit Mark II and the Assassin Suit. So the Mark II version of this armor is included with the Old World Blues add-on, and the Mark I, also known as the Assassin Suit, first appears in the Dead Money add-on. Now, both of these armors are fairly similar, except the Mark II is a lot more interesting in the sense that it can be further upgraded to add more abilities, provided that you've got the latest firmware. And it's also neat that the Mark II version has an onboard computer with a female voice that will talk to the player and perform certain actions depending on the situation. It's hard to say why either of these didn't get included. Of course, the same thing could be said of the Chinese stealth suit, which also appears to be missing in Fallout 4, despite the fact that there is a Chinese submarine off the coast of Boston. If we don't see either of these stealth suits return in future games, I hope we do eventually get to see some armor with a built-in computer come back, because both the Mark II stealth suit from New Vegas and the medic power armor from Fallout 3 were pretty cool. Number 4. The NCR Ranger combat armor and riot gear. So this is pretty much New Vegas's iconic armor, and there's already a really great mod for this armor that you can download for Fallout 4. And while you could make the argument that this was NCR armor and should never appear in Fallout 4, I'm still sort of surprised that Bethesda didn't really include this armor, especially since it's one of the most recognizable aspects of New Vegas and was beloved by so many. And while I suppose it's unlikely that any NCR agents would have made it to the Commonwealth, perhaps Bethesda could have come up with some interesting backstory for the armor's origins to have it somehow appear in the game. There's not really much else to say about this one, other than that you should go and download Unoctium and Dogtooth CG's mod for Fallout 4. Link in the description below. Number 3. The GECKO-backed leather armor reinforced. Now, the reinforced Gecko leather armor is a craftable piece of armor that is obtained during Fallout New Vegas' Honest Hearts DLC, and I don't really know why, but I've always thought that this armor looked really cool, particularly around the pauldrons, the chest, and I also really like its overall asymmetrical look. And having the right arm covered while the left arm isn't is sort of neat and reminds me of Kellogg's armor from Fallout 4. I'm not really sure how this didn't make it into Fallout 4. Maybe it's because you can't encounter gecko enemies in Fallout 4, but I don't see how that would prevent someone from making armor that looks like this, especially since the design doesn't really seem to look that different from your standard leather armor in Fallout 4 in some ways. I guess all we can hope for is that this armor makes its appearance again in a future game, because it definitely did look pretty cool in my personal opinion. Number 2. The Remnants Tesla armor. While I suppose the X01 isn't technically the Enclave armor anymore, I'm sort of surprised that we didn't get a Tesla variant of the X01 in Fallout 4's Automatron, and instead we got a Tesla variant of the T60. And while I suppose the T60 variant is still pretty nice, I think we would all be lying if we didn't expect Bethesda to give us an X01 variant instead. I also think having the Tesla X01 appear in Automatron could have had some really interesting lore implications, especially since we've only really seen Enclave members with Tesla coils on their armor if you're counting the game since Fallout 3. Maybe it's not that much of a surprise though that the Remnants Tesla armor didn't get included for Fallout 4 because it was actually cut, but still present in the game files for Fallout New Vegas. But as an alternative, you can get the Gannon family Tesla armor, which is a variant of the Remnants Tesla armor. Number 1, the Scorched Sierra Power Armor. So the Scorched Sierra Power Armor was added with Fallout New Vegas' Lonesome Road DLC, and as you can see, it's basically some T45 power armor. However, it has a cool color scheme, and one of the pauldrons has a bear's head rather than the standard T45 pauldron. And I've got to admit that I've always liked the color scheme of this armor, and the combination of the goldish orange, red, and green looks really exotic and just looks really cool. And while I don't think we can say for sure, this power armor looks like it might have been inspired by Asher's power armor from Fallout 3, which is another pretty sweet looking T45 variant. Obviously, the big reason this didn't get included is because there's no NCR in Fallout 4. But still, power armor variants like this one make me wish that future games would include more like it. Alright guys, I think that's going to wrap up this particular video. If you like this video, feel free to leave a like, and let me know what your favorite armor piece in New Vegas was. Leave that in the comments section below. Otherwise, be sure to click the bell to join the notification squad, and as always, take care, and I'll see y'all next time.